we went live as well.
Who is this guy?
Well, hello.
Rylan Brown. I thought we should definitely put him up front. Yeah.
Yeah.
Front and center.
I love these new. Look at that. That's nice.
This feels like
whoa, hold on. I got to stay right here. And now from the great state of Michigan, I would like to send it over to I would like to send it to Ryan, who's on the very leading cutting edge. He's actually at the Capitol of Michigan. He's actually on the front steps of the Capitol building in Lansing. Ryan, go ahead and take it away.
So I'm getting arrested, and I've been confirmed as a threat by the State Department. It's not a good day.
So before we got on the call, we're talking about tobacco, weed, alcohol, and politics. And we might have even touched on religion. I don't even recall. And now we're going straight to you, Rylan, being arrested.
That's the way it works.
I think it's because of the weed, alcohol, and tobacco that he got arrested.
Oh.
So, yeah.
I'm trying to sort out this is nice. This is nice. So let's do that.
Yeah. I like that.
All right. So I'm going to pull up today's live stream is like extremely pop quiz random. So this is like probably Rylan's favorite game if he had one. It's just like what questions people have about Logos. So I'm going to pull this up. For anybody who's starting to watch now, over in Tips and Tricks, over on Facebook, we had a poll go up, I don't know, a few hours ago. You are more than welcome right now. You're more than welcome to drop comments. I'm actually watching it on the side, so I can see a few other comments that have came in. It looks like 11 different comments have come in at the bottom of it, and then we've got like 37, 30, and a few other, different tiers of people responding to the poll question. So you're driving the conversation for this evening. And we didn't talk about an agenda. We didn't talk about who's leading what. We normally do. We don't even know. We don't know how long it's going to go. We don't know how long we're going to be talking about using notes or what, quote unquote, using notes even means. Mike's already got some opinions about that. He was scratching his head about that before we hopped on the call. It looks like sermon building, inductive Bible study. So there'll be a place for us to discuss that. I thought that faith life features was something that people may be curious about, but it looks like it didn't get that much traction.
I didn't know. I mean, I feel like I know what faith life features are, but I didn't really know what you meant by that. I think if it was more like these faith life features, people would be more. Because did you mean things like shared lists and the groups and all that?
Yeah, I feel like faith life is this like nebulous world that like Richard has joked about in the past with me and saying like, I don't 100% know what's going on over there, but I know there's a bunch of things that I could use. But then once you get into it being its own social platform and then inviting people into it and the ability to like have conversations, to send newsletters, to create events, to gather information and share information with like a select group of people, and then like start to tier different privacy or unlock privacy for different levels of that group and all that fun stuff. I'm just like really getting into it. And I think because David is so much into it. So that's why
I feel like faith life's going to be like the next Parler. You guys know what Parler is? With
really
like Facebook jumping off.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like faith life could potentially be the next like social platform for Christians across the world. You never know. I don't know.
Or the first, and Parler copied it.
Like you never know. Could be.
Yeah. This one I think would be the next topic below on that list would be interesting. Really, it's like sermon prep, but with a really specific emphasis, which is like pastors who are busy or lay people who work full time, and then they're like, sure, I'll help and jump in because I'm a deacon or something like that, and I'll preach this weekend. And it's like, how in the world do I fit that into my schedule that's already going on? So sermon prep in restricted time scenarios, but I would also add in scenarios where people don't do that all the time, where it's just like, holy cow, where am I supposed to start? And then how do I crank this out? And then there's a few other topics down there.
Jason, did you see that John Varner got pretty excited about the notes? like 3 exclamation points.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know John or no?
I don't, but I know he's excited about notes. Yeah.
I'm excited that he's excited about notes. That's like literally why we do what we do. So,
and I'm excited if you're excited. So,
Ryland's the only one that's not excited right now.
I love notes. I'm excited. There's not a feature in the software that I'm not excited about. I think there are ones that can be better. Like they can, but I think they're all in their own way. They're all great. Like I'll give a great example. The one that I thought was kind of dumb originally was where they came up, was it like not a crossword, but like a word search puzzle?
Yeah.
Words. I was like, when I first got the software, I was like, oh, I can't, I'm never going to use that. That feels weird. And then I found out people are using that who have ministries to like senior centers and I was like, oh, that's our Sunday school classes. And I was like, why wouldn't you have that feature? So I don't know. The more I get into it, I'm like, they're all good. I love everything on this list.
Can you guys imagine what it would look like if you were a Christian back in like 600, you know, and like you got plopped into to 2020 and you were shown this software? Like it's really a crazy piece of software. If you really think at the ability, and what's interesting is that, you know, they say that 90% of all stats are made up on the spot. So I'm just going to make up one, right?
That's what Abraham Lincoln said.
I would say a large percentage of people don't even really know how to use the software. They just use it as like a tech weight, you know, on their desk. They don't know the real abilities that it has. So I'm excited. I'm excited for today.
Yeah.
I think that also like the weight of that, of having like, if God has blessed us to have this sort of information, to not waste that, like with all the Bible translations, that's kind of scary. In another, when you think about what we have access to, because we have, my library is larger than, you know, the average. Like we have more than anybody's had in the history of the world. Yeah, it's such a privilege to be able to have it. It's,
I mean, you might have a library larger than most seminaries. I'll be like, honestly, definitely larger than most pastors if you think globally, but like a handful of seminaries, that's like what resources they have at their disposal. And Mike, yours is like 4 times the size of both of ours. So
it's like a miniature, like it's like a city library.
Did anyone see John MacArthur's private library? It's like a video that went viral recently.
No,
I'm pretty sure I can like pull video into this. We should close with that. Yeah, I can play a video to close.
Is it John MacArthur or is it Rick Warren?
Oh, Rick Warren is what it was. Yeah.
His library is crazy.
Did you see that where he had like a secret room and then it went back and it was just like 25 rows of books and then at the very end was like his sitting and reading space and his desk.
That's what you get for having a prosperous gospel, you know. I should not. Sorry, I should not have said that.
It's a purpose-driven library. It's perfect. So
he buys those books. Like he pays retail for books, and he has I think the largest library of signed copies of books, I think, in the world, like Christian books. And he'll buy like an author's books and just send them, or he'll send like a check. That's what he does. He sends a check to an author, a full retail price, saying, "Hey, would you sign these for me? Would you send me all your books signed?" And pays for everything. And so he has made like a lot of money off that. But I've heard years ago he forgo his salary, like and he paid it back to the church. Like everything he had ever made from the church, he paid it back to the church. And same thing I heard the other day about John Piper, where you know, most of his books are free for PDFs on his website. And that guy is limited. He limits his income through like his church or his board or whatever, where he doesn't make, like, he's not a wealthy guy because he's like, I don't need it and I don't need the temptation.
Yeah.
John Varner with the comments, throwing some shade. I love it.
What'd he do? What'd he throw?
He's like, haha, prosperous gospel. Oh man, throwing some shade.
I try to be the rebellious one in the group.
Let's start with who the worst preacher in the world is. Like,
the worst.
Let's start with one of the.
Can I factbook that?
Factbook that. Factbook that. See what
can you factbook worst preacher? And I think that's a good thing to kick things off with this evening.
They haven't tagged that that particular figure of speech.
I'm seeing if there are any questions or comments on this thread, on this poll, and then we'll get into, it looks like using notes in general. I wish I knew like what people were most, what their pain point was with notes. We've talked about notes like a lot recently, was my first thought here. But at the same time, I wish I knew more specifically like what the pain point was. Is it organizing notes? Is it anchoring, or like keeping track of your notes as you're like flying through resources or doing reading or preparing for a sermon or something like that? I wish that we could be more specific with what that looks like. But if you guys have any thoughts, go ahead.
No, I have a theory on a lot of the features on software. People will buy the software because they got like a demo. They love the feature, and then they don't use it every day or multiple times a day. Like, they're kind of normal people. They're not like us who use it, all day. We constantly running. And I think if it's a couple weeks in between uses, they kind of forget that knowledge of how to use it. And so it's somewhat of a constant reminder. And I always assume if someone has a question, someone else has the question, if they're doing it. And so, but that's what I've found. People, they thought they knew how to do something, and then they're like, oh, I forgot how to do that.
Yeah.
So
we got a, you probably saw this, Jason, but we got a question on Facebook, a couple of questions, but yeah, that's a great question. What type of, what's your go-to commentary and Bible dictionary? We absolutely should get to that.
Yeah. Do you want to, does anything come to mind right now in case he can't hang out for a little while and like wait till the end? Is there anything that comes to mind right away?
Well, what I would say, if you want to throw my screen up there, one of the things I would just point you to, number one, is making sure that you prioritize resources. So whatever the top item is, if you Control L, just so you guys know, Control L is the shortcut. I use it all the time to open up your library. In the main section, let me change this to, so if you have your info panel opened up on the right hand side, and then you go to prioritize resources, you can see, kind of, it doesn't mean necessarily this is your favorite, because it depends on what's available for whatever passage you're studying. But there's a couple in here. I'm a big fan of Baker. I enjoy Baker quite a bit. If I'm looking at, if I go down to the bottom where all my commentaries are down here, this is probably my top one, United Bible Society Handbook, just because it's a language-based book, and it just is awesome for helping to understand why people translate words into English a certain way. I love the New American Commentary. NIV is good if you're using NIV Bible quite a bit. I know that we've talked quite a bit about Lexicon research. I think that's a fabulous book. And then there's all kinds of, there's other ones in here as well. I think I've got somewhere between, there you go, Bible commentaries. I got almost 4,000, so it's hard to pick.
That's
awesome.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Rylan, do you have any thoughts?
I do. So I think everybody needs a good study Bible, and I really like the Lexicon, the Faith Life Study Bible. I like the ESV Bible. Mm-hmm. I think everybody needs to have a 1-volume Bible commentary. And like on Mike's screen, I think you had the what was it? The Knowledge Commentary, the Knowledge.
The Bible Knowledge Commentary is, you've got to have a single volume commentary, especially if you've done any kind of Morris Proctor work. Like he rants and raves about that. That 1-volume stuff is great, and Bible Knowledge Commentary is really a solid 1-volume commentary.
Yeah, it is. Sure. So everybody needs like a 1-volume, a study Bible, and then really, I think everybody, mostly preachers and teachers, because man, it should never be to the point where Bible study, it should bring life to someone. And so, and that's okay that you don't have to feel like you have to get in the weeds on everything. There's something good about like devotional type Bible study. And so I think everybody kind of needs that level, kind of more surface application type stuff. And those 1-volume commentaries are great. And then I think everybody really needs 2 kinds of commentaries. One is a commentary faced towards the seminary, like an exegetical or technical commentary. So I like the exegetical summary commentary series in that question and answer form. I think that stuff is solid. The other one, I think everybody needs a commentary that is geared towards the pew. And so like preach the word commentary or teach the text commentary, maybe find one towards your denominational bent, but that's where you get stories, application. And even if it's not to your, like, I'm not reformed in my theology, but I love the Preach the Word commentary series because they're adapted sermons into commentary. And so those things are absolutely, absolutely fantastic. And then the challenge is when you like a commentary, a lot of commentaries come in sets, but often that's not the best way to think about your commentaries. It's the author of a particular commentary. So I'm a big fan of like the story of God commentary series, but I think Scott McKnight's work on the Sermon on the Mount is far and above some of the other ones in that series. The Nycott commentary series, I don't have it yet, but I'm so excited about Lynn Cohick's commentary on Ephesians. And so really, instead of saying I have to have a commentary set, find someone that you kind of relate to or that you like, and then look out for their commentaries. Maybe the set's good, maybe it's not, but that's my brief. Yeah, and someone put the website Brave Daily did, bestcommentaries.com. Fantastic website, man. Dropping knowledge.
Jason is like he's on it today.
Come on.
Can I just let me make a comment to Nick? He mentioned, he saw that I had a category divider. I was stoked to find. Oh, sorry, I got to get back to my screen.
You're good.
Crazy. I was really excited. So this was like they canned this ability a while back, and then they brought it back, I think, when they switched over to 9. And all this is, and I've actually been meaning to go back through and kind of further solidify some of this stuff and update some of it. But these concordances, lexicons, dictionaries, and then commentaries. And I hope at some point they'll make this again. I think this should be something that they make as an actual built-in feature. But all this is it's a personal book. So if you go to your if you go to the tools section and you type in personal, you'll have all of your personal books in here, and you'll notice I've added some in here that just say dictionaries with the dots, and then all you got to do is add this particular file is just it's a Word doc X with just the word dictionary in it, I believe.
So you just made a generic one.
Yeah, it's just a blank, basically a blank one. And so all it is it's just a filler for the library. So you can actually prioritize your personal books in here now, which is nice. And then you can kind of get an idea of, hey, these are all Bibles, that one isn't clearly. But concordances. So I probably need to, move this down maybe a little bit. It's not really a concordance, but you get the idea. Lexicons, you drag those in. And like I said, I may need to go through and update some of these, but yeah, you just prioritize the actual books, your personal books, which is nice, which is really nice. And I think I've actually tagged, is it personal books? Yeah, there we go. So I've tagged all of some of these anyways as books, personal books, and then all you have to do is you drag these over here if you have them as a blank. So pretty simple.
So that used to be built in, is what you said?
So it used to be that originally, yeah, this was a trick that I had learned from Morris Proctor. And
I've heard the name.
Yeah, and it was he's not quite as big of a deal as Brave Daily, but he's kind of a big deal.
Oh yeah, Brave Daily.
Yeah. But yeah, originally you could do this, and then they took it away, and I think the end part of Logos 8 or something, and I could no longer drop them in here. And now this is the way you can kind of create those categories. So for those that are interested, that's how you do it.
That's cool. Thank you.
And Scott and Angela asked if we make those fillers just to show up where the divisions are for those labels. And yes, is the short answer of you make the personal document, which becomes a book, and then you just use that book as the filler.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Cool. George, it looks like George is watching now, or at least dropped a comment and hopes to catch it later. But we are going to talk a little bit about sermon prep if we follow our poll and all that fun stuff. So it looks like he's new to the platform as a whole and just loves some information on doing sermon prep and keeping them all organized somehow. So we'll probably get to that. This is solid. I mean, this is good. I'm really, really excited about all the different comments and responses to the poll and the way that people are following along and engaging today. So this is fun. I'm glad we didn't have an agenda because we would have steamrolled everybody.
Exactly. So those that are watching, if you want us to talk on notes, can you put maybe a couple of comments on what's kind of the pain points for notes? That since that's the highest priority item, what would you like to see or what questions do you have? Is it how do you take them? Is it what is it? Is it how do I use them? How do I search through them? How do I tag them? There's all kinds of things, and Logos 9, now we've got the new feature of adding images in there, which is a pretty cool feature as well. So if you can put a comment, let us know exactly what you're wanting to see or hear about as it relates to notes.
Yeah. So, while that's going on, Rylan, can I put you on the spot for a second?
Please.
And do kind of like a minute, a quick summary of what it means to get your sermon started and then sermon prep in like your rhythm of things and how you do that.
Yeah, so I've got a custom guide, and which may not be great for someone just starting out, but certainly, talk to one of us or, man, honestly, a coaching session where we could go through that in detail. Someone who just bought the software, 2 guides, maybe 3 that I would point you to: the sermon starter guide, the passage guide, and the exegetical guide. And the sermon starter guide, it's kind of a mix between the 3, but they're all different. You have the sermon start that's going to help you start your sermon. The passage guide is going to go over resources in your library. So it's going to use your library and the passage you're working through together. And then the exegetical guide is want to kind of do the word study, the exegesis, the exegetical work of the text. So if you do those 3 things on whatever text you're working on, if you create a custom guide, you can combine like the passage guide and the exegetical guide and a bunch of other tools, whatever tools you want and guides out of Logos. And that's where I'd start. Just go doing the hard work of going through the passage. Was that a quick summary?
Yeah, for sure. And for someone who's completely new to all this fun stuff, is guides and like, what is a guide?
Yeah. So a guide, I love some of the guides. I probably use my personal guide 99% of the time, even when I'm not doing sermon prep, just because it has all the things. But guides are designed, and you can see up on the screen, it's the middle one between docs and tools. You click on the guides, and you'll have a bunch of options: theology guide, word guide. I mean, just everything. In fact, Mike, can you click on? Is that my screen?
Yeah, I threw yours up there. Sorry about that.
There we go. All right. So when you click on guide, I mean, everything: your counseling guide, theology guide, passage guide, and then a bunch more down here. And you can create your own by saying make a new guide. But a guide really helps you work through what you want to work through in Logos. So you think, I've got a theology issue or a topic or a Bible word study. But up here, you do like exegetical guide. Let's say we're going to study Matthew 7, 15 through 23. And then you just go through these sections. So these are all the times in my notes or sermons or passage list. You've got textual variants. And so you're able to go through some of the manuscript stuff. I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole. Important words. I love this one because the important words is like what, if I understand it right, they are, let me make sure.
Is there recurrence?
Yeah, it aggregates data from all commentary resources, not just those in your user's library, but high frequency words in that passage that are used in commentaries within Logos across all their commentaries. So you get kind of a picture, like in this passage, when you're important words, you're like, oh, fruits is at the top of the list of what people, scholars, and pastors have talked about in the written form in that in those commentaries. Very helpful. Important passages are going to take you to kind of a concordance, not a concordance, but show you how different passages in the Bible are connected to the passage you're looking on. Ancient literature, I mean, you're going to have your apostolic fathers, church fathers, Dead Sea Scrolls, whatever resources you have. But yeah, that's really a guide, helps you work through Logos to bring the stuff from your library and also the Word. So if you don't know where to start, play around with that guide section. And as we all say all the time, you can't break it. Like
that's exactly,
click it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say next. There's two things I was gonna add to what you were saying, Rylan. One is that like I think it was George who asked that question. Yep, George. Like if you're new to the platform, really just run through, click on guides, click on workflows, click on different tools and features, and just click on it, close it. Like just run through it and just try to break it. We actually have a channel, like the lead team at Brave Daily, when we're like just talking through the platform, we have a channel just called Breaking. Isn't it called Breaking Logos? Right? Like, or something like that, where we just like try to throw stuff at it to see what it does. But like that's one side of it, is to just explore and just see what you can find. The other side of it is like, before you go to the platform, think about your own pattern, your own rhythm, and your own, like, how you just study scripture yourself. And I think I said on a call a couple calls ago, it's like you just pull out a piece of paper, you write down the process or the flow that you'd like to do regularly. And then maybe I'm going to plug a call with Coach right now, but like you hop on a phone call with one of our coaches and you say, how in the world do I take this thing that I do all the time and then like actually do this in the software? And like that would be a lot of fun for us to explore with you. But the idea is that like this software can't do anything that you have zero understanding of. But you got to sit back and think about what you'd like to accomplish, and then walk into the software that way.
Yeah, Jason, what I'd if I were to categorize like basic, intermediate, and advanced, if you're brand new and you're just trying to figure out what this software does, go to the Factbook first. Just go there first. Go to the Factbook, type it in, figure it because the Factbook is like training wheels. It has all the additional, and I know we're not here to talk about the Factbook, but just if you wouldn't mind throwing my screen up there, it's as basic as if you're studying, John 3:16, for example, and you're looking up and saying, hey, I got to study John 3:16. Well, this is obviously in this section, in this biblical pericope, this is where and sometimes people forget this is where the meeting of Nicodemus is, right? So not only does it does pericopes, you can study, topics like if you typed in Paul, you've got a list of all kinds of things. Like I want to just study who Paul is. Okay. The Factbook's going to pull up all kinds of stuff. Okay. One of the new features in Logos 9, which I love, is that you can close all these. So if you collapse all, that will help your Logos open the next time. It opens the same way you close it. Just remember that in all of these panels, it opens the same way you close it. So if I close it now like this, where it's all empty, and I go back and I open the Factbook, okay, and some of you might be saying, well, how do you have the Factbook over here? If you don't have the Factbook here, it's because you don't have the new updated version, the 9.1 version. You'll notice when I open the Factbook up, now everything's closed. Why is that important? Well, it's important because now it's not, each one of these tabs is an individual indexed search. So if I click on one of these, or if I have all of them open, the software is trying to perform all of that at one time, which is going to be very laborious on the software, okay, on your computer. So now you can click through these, and this is a key article. You don't change this at all. This is picked by the Logos team, Faith Life team. It gives you data, okay? So it's just literally clicking through and seeing what pops up. And again, I'm on my laptop, so I apologize. I don't have my workhorse desktop.
I appreciate the apology, by the way.
I really feel bad.
I was hoping you were going to apologize. Because
yeah.
I expected more from you, Mike.
I really feel like I need to update this laptop. It's crap.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Can't even handle it. All right. So,
you know what? Why don't you just hop off this call? We'll just take
probably don't even deserve to be here. So one of the things I want to point out, because we were talking about, like, this is the very basic starting point, right? If you go down to the bottom and say see also, this is all the other things that Logoff can do. Like, this is like, again, from here, you can jump into all kinds of stuff. Here's a guide on Paul, which is a topic guide. Here's a workflow. Here's other topics, roles. Like, you just click in here and it goes to work. Now, one trick with the Factbook, and I know this isn't a big section on Factbook, but if you click this, it will stay inside that Factbook. But if you drag it, it will open a new one beautifully. That's amazing.
Nice.
Isn't that amazing? So
Yeah.
So I would say, number one, start out here. Start out in the Factbook as a basic. Okay, if you're just brand new. Okay, if you want an intermediate to it, use the guides, because the guides are going to be a little bit more in depth. They're specific guides. So if you want to do a passage exegesis, or if you want to do, some sort of a topic guide, or if you're doing a sermon prep, obviously use this. If you want to go very detailed or advanced, you're going to use all of the fine-tuned tools, like the syntax searches and like all of the very, very unique searches that you can do to perform specific items. And I'm not going to get into any of that, but that's what I would say is just use, I would say, start with Factbook and use the guides if necessary. But most of us here probably are going to use the Factbook, I would say.
I have a really random question, and like, I just hadn't thought about this until you said topic guide. And Mike, if you're stepping aside, that's no big deal. Rylan, you might be able to help too.
All right.
Factbook versus topic guide. Like, what's the difference?
Go, Mike.
Oh. When would you use one versus the other?
Well, so I don't know if any of you like certain companies or not, but to me, Factbook's like Google. Like, Factbook is like it's like the main search engine that searches other things in Logos. Okay. Whereas the topic guide is specifically the search items for a topic. So Factbook is going to be much more diverse. It's going to have, you can search lemmas, you can search manuscript, you can search, all this plethora of information. Whereas the topic guide is going to be very specific. And let me just, again, if I keep trying to unshare my screen because I know people don't like to see the circle of doom.
Oh, you're good.
So if you go to just like a biblical topic study, is that what you're looking at? Is that what you're talking about, the topic guide?
Well, you were running through Factbook, and I saw topic guide, and I thought, I don't even know if I've ever thought about the difference between the two of them. That's all.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. So topic guide. So here, so we've got, the topic guide, which is on Paul, and then we have the Factbook on Paul. So you'll notice that these are, if you just shrink these down, and I've added. So if it doesn't look like yours, one of the things with the guides that you can't do with a Factbook is you can add or you can take away functions inside of guide and make it custom. You can't do that with a Factbook. So Factbook's going to have specific things related to a topic. So it's going to have the topic that we're discussing. It's going to have a Factbook entry with all these similar topics that you can search. It's going to have the atlas. So any of the items that are associated with, Paul's ministerial items, that's going to be in there. Biblical places, people, events, things, but then all these collections, and I've added these in because those are custom resource collections. You can add all those inside of a guide. So you can add certain items inside of a guide itself. So it's different in that the guides can be tweaked and customized for specific things. They're kind of like, training wheels for a certain topic or a certain category, whereas the Factbook is just strictly a driving, like, Google search inside of the software.
Yeah. And then that would kind of like land you in all sorts of areas.
Yeah, and they've done a fabulous job of, and I was hoping they were going to do this in the 9 update, of really letting this be the starting point. So if you really just don't know what to do, go to the Factbook, mess around in here, and you're going to find, what about all the other books in my library that relate to this? And you're going to find things never really find, what is this personal letters? I don't even know what the personal letters is. I don't think I've even.
Nobody does.
Clearly I haven't, because again, my workhorse laptop is really struggling.
You're forgiven for a second time. Is Brave? Can you search Brave Daily in the Factbook? No, but George did have a topic or a question about Factbook, and then we can go from there and then hop into a few different questions about notes. I know that Nick was asking about notes over on YouTube. So,
what was the question on Factbook?
Well, that, and then I have one thing real quick to just throw out there. Factbook, George was wondering, is that the place that you'd go for sermon prep, or is that just kind of like a general understanding of a certain topic? I think for the most part, it's just if you want to dig into a specific topic, or you want to, or it doesn't have to be a specific topic, but a person or a place or anything, then it's like Factbook where you go to start, not necessarily for sermon prep. That would just kind of like be really overwhelming. But
I would say it would be the part of the research phase of sermon prep is what you would use a Factbook for. So as you're getting ready to write, you're going to use the Factbook to look at the different, exegete the passage, or you're going to look at the people in the passage or lemmas in the passage to kind of build up all your information to write it. And then you would move over to the sermon, obviously the sermon builder to write the sermon, hopefully.
Yeah. So I was going to,
go ahead. No, there's no wrong or right way to do it. And so, I've been using the software for 2 years. I use the Factbook since 9, much more than I ever used to. And I think Logos, the way they're doing it by adding the Factbook icon on the main page, that's what they want you to do. They've added like 10 times the resources. So it's phenomenal. Yeah. But someone like me, that's not really where I'm going to start. I'm going to go to my custom guide, because that's going to go through the resources that I want right away. I've got my pattern, but that doesn't make it the right one. That's just what I'm comfortable with. So someone starting out, man, passage guide or the Factbook is so good, and it's good for several things. One, put the passage in there and go with it. I think what they're trying to do, I heard someone from the company say this, but I don't remember who, but they're trying to make Factbook like the place where you access kind of some of your guides and things. So it makes it much easier to use much more streamlined to use the software than it used to.
It's like the go button on steroids.
Yeah, I think they'll probably continue that. Like, I don't know how they'll keep working on that, but to me, that makes complete sense, because they said a lot of those tools get lost in the drop-down menus.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. That just, I just said it's like the go button on steroids. Can't you access even the Factbook from Go now? Is that right?
I think you can't. By the way,
that's
Jason,
another. Yeah,
I had to tell you this. I did look for Brave Daily in the Factbook, and unfortunately, Elaine Daily is what comes up, but not Brave Daily. So you got to get a little more prestigious with.
We have a Wikipedia page.
I'm gonna make a phone call right after this. I'm gonna get that taken care of.
I think if we get a Wikipedia page, it will get that data in there for us.
All right. Well, let's make that happen. Can someone add that to our to-do list?
I just hope that they don't index Mike Colburn as like the worst pastor ever. I'm not even a pastor, so I hope that never shows up.
Someone will say something about your laptop, that's for sure. I was going to say
they will.
One thing to just throw out there is I mentioned that YouTube comment from Nick. We're fielding Facebook comments and questions as well. I was going to throw this out there. No matter where you're watching from, we're probably on that platform or whatever platform you're more comfortable with. So we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter and Facebook. It's streaming live right now, and then we're on Brave Daily's website as well. So if there's any of those channels, if you're used to following a specific channel, or if you're wanting to follow along in any of those places, then know that you can jump over and hit subscribe or follow or whatever it is in order to make it happen. Hey, Mom, thanks for. I'm going to throw my mom's quote. My mom's
love
that's
it.
My mom right
love
there.
It. What's up, Mom?
Hey, Mom. So
she didn't respond.
I am just going to throw that out there that we're across different platforms. I don't know how to get that off there, so my mom's just going to stay on there for us. Cool. Oh, there we go. But then I want to jump over and talk about Nick's question. I did see another question about moving things from Evernote into Notes. I don't know of a way to. Ryland's face says exactly what I was about to say. I don't think that that's really possible.
So I'm an Evernote user, and I would say, I'm trying to think off the top of my head how you would do that. Number one, I don't think it would make a lot of sense to. I think what I would tell you to do is to slowly move those directly over into your notes. But you can, just for the record, you can put outside URLs in your bookmarks.
That's cool.
So if you wanted to drag, if you're using the Evernote web version, you could absolutely take the actual URL for that and put it into your book. I don't know why you would do that,
unless you'd like tag it with the topic of that particular Evernote collection or something like that. But it'd still be manual. I think the point or the question is there any way to migrate it, or can you export Evernote and then import it in or something like, but like, I don't think that that's possible. I think you just have to move that stuff over.
But can I, speaking of URLs, can I share something that I think is really cool?
If your computer will load, yeah.
Well, I see it won't. It goes into the abyss.
I mean, every time you ask, I'm going to say something.
So if you go to your notes, okay, and again, I just opened it because remember, notes is a tool. One thing that but that's really, really cool, I think, anyways. So if you just open up, I'm just going to make a quick suggestion. So if you are using or taking notes inside of a particular commentary, okay, we're going to get into notes for just a second. So obviously, notes can be taken by adding a note manually here. A couple things about notes is if you do it in this method, these top, you'll notice right here, you want to pay close attention to these three items. That's like the of note taking. You need to know what notebook it's going to go into. You need to know what highlighting style, if you're going to use one. And then you also need to know what note icon you're going to use. You'll see that right now, because I took a note, it has the icon over here. And let me just get my cool little, so people can see this for a second here. All right, here we go. So you'll see that this associates with this over here. And when you change this, it's going to change the color of that particular one. That's just a basic item. If you change the highlighting tool here, and I'll just make it like we'll do brown. Okay, it'll be an ugly color. You'll notice that it colored it brown, and it's got a yellow icon. Now, right now, this is a note that it's not sitting in a notebook. So something about notes is you want to make sure you have notebooks that are associated to whatever broad categories as possible. And I've actually numbered these. Okay. So that's a little tip that you can use, is just do a number next to it so you can kind of put them in the order that you want. So I've got broad categories of Bible book studies, non-Bible book studies. So if I'm just reading a book that's not associated to the Bible at all, like I'm reading right now, this Misreading Scripture with Individualistic Eyes. Fabulous book. So that would be considered, just my highlights go into that particular notebook. Topic studies, teaching scripture, weekend, scripture studies, reading through the Bible, just whatever it is, right? You want to pick an actual notebook. So since let's just call this as part of my Bible book studies. So now this particular note is anchored to the Bible Knowledge Commentary. It's got the brown, ugly highlighter with the yellow note icon, and it's sitting inside of the note, the notebook called Number 1 Bible Book Studies. One of the things that's really cool that you can do, so if I take a note in here, and I'm going to just close this down so that people can see this a little easier, so you can take notes clearly, okay? So if I'm taking a note in here, you'll notice that when I put my icon over top of the note icon, or my mouse, it shows the actual text that I just typed. What I want to point your attention to, since we're talking about Evernote URLs, I think this is an awesome little feature right here. This I use all the time, okay? This will allow you to hyperlink a section. You'll see how when you highlight it, it hyperlinks, it turns that into a hyperlink. So if I'm taking a note on this particular section, one thing that I can do, so I'm going to delete this anchor for a second. I am going to attach a link. Instead of highlighting it, I'm going to attach a link that's going to open up in my note. Okay. So what I mean is if I click on these 3 dots right here, okay, of the book that I want to hyperlink, and you scroll down to the bottom, you're going to see this copy location as URL. And these are different items. Okay. You'll have to pay attention to what they are, mess around with them. This is a URL that requires the internet to open Logos Bible Study software. So I'm going to notice that the actual shortcut is Control-Alt-C. I use that all the time instead of Control-C. So what I'm going to do is I want this to open at this exact location. It takes a location bookmark. So I'm going to do Control-Alt-C. Okay. And now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to highlight test. I'm going to click on link. I'm going to do Control-V and I'm going to hit save. Okay. And notice, okay. So now when I'm in this note, you'll notice it doesn't have any highlights in here, but if I click this, I'm going to close this book right here. If I click this link, notice that it now opens exactly to that spot, which is really nice when you're taking a note and you don't want all of the same highlights and all that thing to populate. You can link it to a particular part of a book that you're referencing so that when you go back and you look at, hey, this is why I took this note. I don't remember where I kind of read this stuff, but I want to have a link to go back to that book. That's how you do it. It is an awesome trick inside of note-taking.
Yeah, that's solid. And Brian had asked about blogs. Like, do you take notes on blogs that you're reading? And it made me think that you could easily link up blogs or drop in blogs if you had even a notebook on blogs themselves.
Yep, and I
wanted to keep track of notes that way.
I think you can actually, and I'm just gonna test this, guys. I haven't tried this, okay? But if I just because I'm not gonna go anywhere crazy here, I'm just gonna do Google, for example. Can you hyperlink? This is how we break the software.
Yeah, I do. Woo! So I do that.
Hey, right.
Look at this. Look at that guy.
I mean, there you go.
Boom.
What'd you do? Sorry, I missed it because I threw Rylan up front and center for a second.
That is awesome. So it's the same thing, except you just put the actual link. So you'll see right here, the link is whatever link. I mean, you could put a link to a website. You can put a link to an image that if you've got a website, like a blog that you write, and you've got, embedded images that have a web address. I mean, you can put any kind of link in there and link it inside of your notes, and it will open up automatically.
Can you throw up the screen, Jason?
You got it. Yep.
All right. So 2 things I would say to people. One is that I've done that I found very helpful is you can copy and paste into a document and create that as like if it's a blog, create that as a personal book and upload it, and then it's searchable and you can note it. And then I'd put the link within that document so the author always gets credit and you remember where it came from, and you can go back to the original source. But what I do, the reason I link is one of the ways that I use notes is this family history, which I think for me has just been phenomenal. I started doing this a while ago, where all of my kids have their own note and their dates to them. So our daughter Madeline, this is her notebook. It's anchored to September 27th. It's anchored to July 12th because she was born September 27th. She was baptized July 12th. We have pictures in there. I do this for all of our kids because my goal is one day if I pass this on to our kids or one of our kids, they'll have all this information. But then in here we have family deaths. So like I've got my grandmother, she died 2/24/18. I've got it linked. There's the sermon. I preached her funeral. So when I click on that, it goes to that that funeral sermon, but then also you can link the obituary, which it's not going to show. You won't be able to see it, but that goes to the obituary. So like it for me, using those links adds to the full package better.
In Ryland, just explain. So when you linked that Joanne Murdoch link to the sermon, you did the same thing, right?
Yep.
It's just a Logos generated link. If you wouldn't mind showing them, so you're in the sermon right now, right?
Yeah, and so for this, I would do the L4 link, which is the Logos. That means it's going to open up in Logos. Whereas if I do a URL or HTML, it's going to do something different. But if I go to the L4, I click it like that, and we could do it here. It doesn't matter what it is. But you go to your hyperlink, do Control V. That link is the sermon.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's that simple.
And because some people were asking, what do you use? What's the links? I mean, you can read up on what it is. It says it as you hold over top, but the L4 it does not require internet, and it opens up inside of the Logos software. So if you're doing something that's, the Logos web app, which you can do that as well, you just got to find the actual correct link and then put that inside of wherever you want, inside of the notes that you're using.
Yeah. So Ronnie, I hope that helps answer your question. You're asking about the different kinds of links. The other question that was asked, and I'm not sure that you guys know this, I was actually researching on the side, was just like and especially Rylan, you're talking about like family details and keeping track of photos or like obituaries and all that sort of information. Like keeping track of your sermons is one thing, but when you're talking like family information, that's next level. And do you guys know anything about security or like backups, or like how trustworthy is the note system? Like if it were to crash or something. I mean, it's like, I haven't thought about it, but
so here's my response to that. One is there's always the chance that something is going to fail. I've been on Logos for 2 years and have yet to have that happen yet. This is downloaded to your machine. And so it's synced across all your different copies. So if like the servers at Logos crash, it doesn't mean that you won't have access to your notes. The other thing I would say is Faith Life and Logos, they have it in your interest to make sure that never happens. And so that's part of what it means for them to be a good business. It's kind of like banks and security. They've got an interest to make sure your information is secure. And so there's always the chance nothing's foolproof, but I personally wouldn't worry too much about it. But if you are, man, find out. Like, it's always good to have information put in 2 or 3 different places.
Yeah, Rylan, I was going to ask, do you, just because we were talking about some funny stuff before, you put all of your kids' Social Security and all of your PINs and credit card information, right? You put all
your name, Social Security,
and then I think you said you shared that, right, to the Brave Daily Faith Life group.
Listen, I need that information. Other people need that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
So yeah, have at it.
So you're going to have to join our Faith Life group in order to get any of that information. You can
so everyone right now, make sure that everyone subscribes to.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to make a joke and drop the Faith Life link in there right now. That would be too far.
What else do we need to cover about notes? I feel like we're missing. Maybe, and again, comment, guys, if you can, on specific things. It's important to make sure that, looking at the screen, make sure that you know the difference between, what happens when you use a highlighter in your note. Like when you create a note, which is using that, you highlight a section, you right click, and Rylan, why don't you just go ahead and show them real quick. Create it.
Yeah, let me create a note, which is also why I honestly, I highlight some within books. But if, like for me, I've said this several times, I'm wanting my notes to show up anchored in a text. And this one's not going to have any. Let's go to like Matthew 7. I know, like I want my notes to be anchored to the text, and my system, these are all yellow, but here's a good example. Green notes for me, and it's all random. It doesn't, there's no special system to it, but yellow are my thoughts, green are commentaries. And I want to be able to have like the commentary information when I hover over that note show up. So let me give a good example. Let me open up like a Faith Life Study Bible, and it doesn't matter what it is, but I'm going to in your highlighting palette, you can quick key this stuff. So like if I press A, it means I agree with it. It's going to create a new note underlined in green. Let me go to my notes. This is the one that I just made. And let's say I want to add that anchor to, we'll do it to the active reference. Well, when I do that, the only thing that's going to do is it's going to show up as a green underline because it's anchored to the commentary. It's not the information. So for me, the way I do that is I want it anchored to the text. But let's see, I don't want a highlighting style. I want it to be like this. Oh, yeah, like that. And then I'm going to take that information, and most of the time I'm going to copy, and then I'm going to paste, and then it's going to show up, not highlighted, but it's going to show actually up in the note. The only time I don't do that is like when I'm going through my book highlights. That's when I am highlighting like that. And this one's a bad example because I've been changing it up, but that one's a bad example. I've been working through my notes. Oh, I'm going to find a good one. So here's a good example of I'm going to highlight something, and then I'm almost always going to tag it. In fact, I think maybe it was Angela or Stacy and Angela. Somebody was asking about kind of having a theology thing. You know, Mike and Jason, you all can share, but I'm going to tag if it's a theology thing like Christology or theology proper. I'm going to tag it with whatever tag I want so that it's going to show up over here. And the way to kind of minimize like your options is one, I'm going to choose, I know it's going to be in my book highlights, and then I'm going to filter the stuff out. And so let's say it is, let's open up that. Okay, radical discipleship. I know it's going to be in radical discipleship. Well, there I see those tags of, these are all my Christology tags for radical discipleship. So I let the software kind of filter stuff out for me.
By the way, I really appreciate seeing that you used that little tip on numbering the notebooks.
Yeah, I changed that up after your thing.
That was cool. That was cool. So I can tell people, if you're new, you're probably like, your head is spinning right now because you went through that so fast because you're like an expert at this.
Thank you.
So I mean, I'm just stating the truth, right? So if you would, can you throw this up on the screen real quick? I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna try to slow down just a little bit. Okay. Number one, you have
Mike,
to.
Let me jump in real before you do, because if you're going to run through what Rylan just shared in abbreviated or simpler, I did want to flag that what Rylan just shared may have also answered Nick's question. Nick Stapleton commented on YouTube and was asking about like how you would find things. Like if you use it as a reader, there's a lot more features to it, obviously. But if you're used to underlining and highlighting within a book, and you're trying to move over to the library that you've got, your digital library, and you want to learn and start thinking about what it means to highlight and make notes and underline in the same way, what Rylan was just sharing would help in that. And then you could circle back and search on tags, or you could search on notes in that same way. So so instead of having to like flip through your pages of your book that's on your library bookshelf, now you've got tags that you can start to filter down. So I didn't know if you were going to get into some of that, Mike.
No, that's
know about the shot records, and the answer is yes. We do our shot records, and I keep a list in the notes of all the people who are rejecting any sort of vaccines. Is that too far for Brave Day? Let's talk about notes.
Do you?
Absolutely not.
So just real quick on that, because they added the images, do you take a picture now when you get your shots and put that in as well, so that you can remember the pain of what it Do you do
Well,
that?
look at that. Look at that. We're just coming up on the hour, and I hate to
so real quick, back to being serious. I would say this: just think of taking notes like you would normally. Okay, just forget about the software a second. In order for you to take notes, if you're going to need, number one, some sort of a utensil, a writing tool, right? So if you use highlighters, or if you use some sort of like the precept inductive, methodology where you're, circling and putting boxes, like that's what's called a highlighting palette inside of Logos. So under tools, again, these are both tools. So your notes now, it's a tool, okay? It's not a notebook. It's not a document, it's a tool. And then highlighting is also a tool. One quick tip, if you don't know this, when you open up your highlighting tool, you can drag this up to your main screen. I'm not going to do it because I've already got mine here. You'll see the highlighting tool is already here in my shortcut on my top menu. And because I have a laptop that doesn't always function because it's not my workhorse, yes, I'm going to say it again. I get irritated with that. Anyway, so your highlighting tool is what allows you to mark up the things that you want in any book or in the Bible, okay? You can just create highlights without notes. That's what you see here. When you go to the filter facet, you'll see it says highlights. These are all, I've got 2,400 plus highlights that don't have any written notes, okay? That would be like me coming in here and saying, I want to highlight this as, let's use a certain palette. Let's just say Bible book study. I'm going to highlight this as a blue highlighter. Now inside of highlights, you'll see that this is the last created right here. I just took this. This is anchored to, you'll see BKC there. That's the Bible Knowledge Commentary. And it's just a highlight. That's all it is. Just like you'd go through and highlight things. Okay. If you want to convert this to a note, you can do that very easily from a highlight. All you got to do is just take a note. I mean, this is literally now a note. You just have to make sure it has an icon, because otherwise it won't populate up here. So I'm going to make an icon. Now you can see that I have an icon up here to the left, and it says what's in this box. And you'll notice that no longer is it considered a highlight. It's considered now a note. Let me go back here, populate this, change to date created. It needs to populate. Apparently it's not populating fast enough, but it is now considered a note. Okay. I don't know why that's not showing up yet, but it's considered a note. Okay. And it's also housed. You'll see that it's housed inside of this particular notebook. Okay. So it's pretty easy to take notes in that regard, just by highlighting and then going in and typing. Okay. I'm going to delete this note. When I do that, you'll notice it disappears. Okay. The other thing, so you need a palette. The other thing that you want to recognize is that each palette can be correlated to a notebook, which is important when you're separating notes. Okay. So if you're studying Hebrews, for example, and it's a Bible book study, I want to use a palette that's associated with a specific notebook, so that every single time I do a highlight with this palette here, it's going to put this note, let's just say important. It's going to make a highlight, and it's going to go inside of the Bible book section. That's where it's going to send it. Okay. I'm going to delete this for a second. So you can see right here, it sent it right now into this particular notebook. So you want to categorize, you want to think of this as if you're organizing your notes. Number one, you got to have a highlight palette. That highlighting palette needs to be associated to a notebook. If you need to create a new notebook, you use this plus right here, so that when you take a highlight, it goes into a specific notebook. That notebook or that highlight can actually be changed into a note by adding text inside of the actual note section. I'll open this up to make it easier to see. inside of here. Okay. And you can add anchors and do all the things that Rylan was talking about as well. The other way you can take a note is simply highlight, let go, and you'll see a note right here. And these are your previously used, it rotates these previously used highlights. If you click on the three dots, that opens up a further option where you can also continue to take notes. You can specifically say, I want to take a note on this, or I want to put it in a specific notebook. Okay. So it just depends on how you want to take the note. I generally will highlight and then add a note because I'm almost always connecting a highlight to my note. But if I'm doing what Ryland is saying, I would go about it differently because I don't want a highlight to be associated. So you just got to remember, I was trying to be simple, guys, and I don't think I did it. I don't think I accomplished it. I don't think I was
Well,
simple.
that just means next time we do a poll, we'll have another, someone's going to say, can we talk about notes? It's going to pop up again. No big deal.
It's going to keep popping up.
No, I mean, I think it was solid. I think we talked through, like just general reading, creating a note, where those notes go, and then what it looks like to organize them. And you even discussed like taking a specific highlight and then dropping it into a specific notebook. And so, I'm hoping that that's what Nick especially was looking for, with his question. But, yeah, there's so much to cover. Again, we'll keep it about an hour. I think we're about an hour now. We have tons of stuff that like tries to simplify this. So like, Rylan, we have that course that you created. It's a $10 course that you could walk through the basics of the platform. We have 1 hour coaching sessions. That's one-on-one. And then we have, is it next weekend? We've got that workshop. It's a group workshop. And so like, instead of us just sharing our screen and talking through like our own workflow, we would just throw your software up on the screen. And then we'd say, no, like, this is how you build a highlighter. This is how you build your flow out. And you could do that in a group setting with like you and 9 other people. So all of that's available at bravedaily.com/live. I can throw, that's the URL in order to check that out. All of that's on that website. All of this is just because it's fun. We enjoy doing this, and we enjoy just throwing an hour of like discussion out there. I learn something new every single time I hop on the call with these guys. So I hope that you do too. I also hope that we answered as many questions as we could. I don't know that we got them all. This was good.
It was good. It was really good interaction. For sure.
Yeah, really
I'm still waiting. Rylan, are you going to share all of your kids' notes I want to make sure that I can, because I think that's really.
I'm going to put it in our Brave Daily group. Hey, can I plug our interview for this week?
What's that, Rylan?
Can I plug our interview for this week?
Oh, yeah, for sure. What do we have coming up this week? And what did you share last week? Tell them what you shared last week, too.
Yeah, last week had the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Mike Pasquarello. Well, it's a tough name for me to pronounce. Great guy, so humble. We talked about his book, The Beauty of Preaching. Really enjoyed sitting down with him. And then this week, we're sitting down with Dr. Scott Gibson, who is at, I've talked to so many people, I'm forgetting. He is at, if he hears this, I'm so sorry. But he's the professor of preaching, not at Gordon Conwell and not at Beeson. What'd you say? Baylor. That's the one. So Dr. Scott Gibson from Baylor and Dr. Karen Mason, who's at Gordon Conwell, and they wrote a book on Hope in the Darkness that we're going to talk about, how to preach about suicide. But it's about it's about people, how they can deal with this issue. And man, we've got interviews coming up. Mark Ward, talking to him this week. We got interviews already lined up, and we've got a lot recorded all the way going out through January. So, yeah. But this Thursday.
Yeah. So, like, how would they know about those interviews? Where do they find them?
All over.
I mean, they'll be on YouTube. They'll be on Facebook. They'll be on the podcast.
Yep.
So all of that's available through the website. You can check it out there, or just like seriously, whatever channel you're on, just send a private message or send a message to us and like say, how do I get that podcast or how in that? So yeah, we'll help you out with that too. Yeah. Cool, guys. Really appreciate the time that you spent and all the people watching. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. So many questions, so it's good. All right, guys. Thank you. Mike, I hope your computer speeds up before next call because really disappointing. So disappointing.
Definitely not going to a Mac. I can tell you that right now.
Well, I was going to say it feels like a...
Oh, my goodness.
Woo!
All right. Thanks, guys. You have a great night. And anyone watching, you have a great night, day, whenever you get to this. Take care.
Appreciate you guys.